Welcome back to Season 3 of The Influencers, where we bring you interviews with some of the most interesting and thoughtful voices shaping the digitally driven transformation at the intersection of law, business, and technology.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Influencers, our podcast conversation on digital transformation and law. I'm Leo von Gerlach, and with me today is Franziska Janorschke, Head of Data Privacy at Novartis. Novartis is one of the world's preeminent pharmaceutical companies with a very, very strong track record in pharmaceutical innovations and innovations in other fields. Hi, Franziska.
Hello, Leo. Thank you so much for having me.
Before speaking about Novartis' use of advanced technologies, a question about the team that you are heading, the data privacy team. What is your role and responsibility, and how does this transgress and compare with other teams and their role regarding artificial intelligence? Where are certain demarcation lines lie between your team and others?
I think our senior management 2.5 years ago has been really forward thinking, because since many years we have a mature data privacy function here at Novartis. In the age of AI and the use of data, our senior management really thought hard how to put some guardrails and safeguards in place. So they decided not only to take the data privacy function from legal into our ethics, risk and compliance function, but also adding digital and AI compliance to it, which at the time here for sure it was a novum. But we also realized the moment we apply AI, we're not only using data, but we also have to have some governance in place in order to make sure that we do what is right. And the most logical aspect was to add it to data privacy, because we go with the use of data. I believe we have shown that we can do governance, right? We provide risk assessments, we provide privacy assessments to the organization for projects that they have in mind. So it was probably a logical next move to bring it here, and we go by principles. And also, our thought was we could basically connect it to the good work we do in the privacy field already, and also ensure we are asking the right questions and run our risk assessment when it comes to AI solutions in our organization. So ultimately, 2.5 years ago, this decision has been taken. And now if you follow the privacy landscape and, where our privacy associations are navigating to, it's not just privacy anymore, but it's really the use of data, the ethical use of data, AI compliance aspects and risk attached to it. So we believe we are in the right place. From a very practical angle in the organization, we clearly have to collaborate, because historically data, the use of data, and of course technology heavily resides in the governance of our IT function. For us, it's data, digital, and IT, so it's DDIT. And this is basically where we spend at the moment 50% of our time, if not more. We do collaborate very closely with our AI strategy office, because first of all, you have to think about the opportunity. Where do we work in AI? Where do we apply AI? Where do we invest in AI? So the strategy folks, and then of course the first line. We work with commercial, we work with research and development to understand where they're navigating to and how we can come on board, not only when they have decided they want to go with a certain solution, but already in the ideation, to maybe identify issues that, because we have prohibited aspects, and from a risk management perspective, we will never be able to apply such an AI solution, not to come at the very end, but already in the early discussion. I do believe communication is a very important function, because it is an awareness topic. AI, it is a topic where people are anxious and maybe even fearful because they really don't understand. So a big chunk is as well to bring the topic closer to our people in the organization. We're not looking into AI solutions in research and development, but it's also about productivity. We do have AI agents in place helping us, to become more efficient when we write emails or when we prepare presentations to senior management or to the organization. So this muscle has to be built. And finally, I guess other functions as well. It's our HR function. We call it in the meantime people and organization. It's an awareness topic. It's a capability topic. And we work very closely to bring the topic closer to our people. We provide training courses. We can be very basic, but we can also be very detailed when we talk to experts in the field to not only deploy, but maybe also develop AI AI solutions. Maybe I stop here and I'll wait for the next question.
Wow, this is a wonderful question. But there's so many things in there about commercial aspects, strategy, communication, psychology, organizational issues. But perhaps let's go back to the beginning of what you said, and then we take it in stages. So I understand data privacy now sits well under ethics, risk, and compliance, and that is obviously an area that is very close to own technologies in terms of self-administration. Are there any technologies you use for that function, either in your team or in the wider space of compliance, risk, and ethics?
I will be very honest. At Novartis, we don't have it straight yet, right? We are still in exploration mode in the research and development field. And I guess since many years, we are much more advanced. In the commercial field, we explore, and the same goes for operations and our support G&A functions. And particularly for our ethics, risk, and compliance function, we are still sitting in the ideation where we can apply AI tools in a very practical manner. And the most obvious, I guess, we provide advice, we provide business partnering. We continue to think about a chatbot solution, right? We have many policies in place. We give a lot of guidance, and sometimes people feel it's difficult to navigate all of that. And even our people in the field, in our function, they can, appreciate once in a while if there is a solution that can help you navigate to the aspect that you need to know at a certain aspect of time. And then if you think ahead, for us, we do risk assessments. We do risk assessments for privacy as we now do risk assessments for applying AI solutions. So of course we think about how can we make our work more productive? Do we really have to use a brain and a pair of eyes and a pair of hands to assess a certain situation? So we are exploring to automate a little more our risk assessments, which also brings, I guess, some efficiency and alignment. So those are clearly things we are looking into. If we can have AI solution that looks into, the potential contract and maybe even the profile of the project that people have in mind and certain other factors, and can give you an idea, is that a low risk project? Is that a medium? Is it a high risk? And if high risk, what are the things we have to keep in mind? But I also want us to be careful, right? I'm very much into the human-centric approach when it comes to AI solutions, and having AI checking AI risks. There is a certain aspect I think we have to keep in mind to still sit in the driver's seat and use the human brain capacity to start with on what we want to achieve, ultimately to the result that we get out of such an AI solution. But back to your question, we are exploring on various avenues at the moment where we ourselves can apply AI solutions to bring our work to a next level, to become even more efficient and productive in the output we generate, and transactional activities, almost administrative activities that a lot of us still do, to maybe get the help of an AI solution in order to concentrate more where we create the impact, which from my perspective is sit with the first line to really have meaningful discussions on what they have in mind and support them in coming up with the right solutions.
You spoke about the use of digital technologies for your own department in data privacy, and then you touched on the use of artificial intelligence for other related departments. Who does the oversight of all this? Who coordinates this? Is this your team? Does your team contribute to this oversight, or is there yet another function, or is this kind of flowing or in the process?
I think you're asking a very important question. And I remember when I accepted this job 2.5 years ago, and clearly not an expert in the topic, one of my very first questions was like, okay, if we try to provide AI compliance to the organization, can one give me an overview on where we're applying in AI? And it was impossible because it was scattered and it was different teams being involved in all of that. So one of the first things that got very clear to me in the team in the beginning was we need governance. And I know governance sounds very strong, but a company of the size of Novartis needs to understand how we go after, right? And for me, it was very early clear that we cannot own the AI topic for Novartis. This is clearly its first line, because at the end of the day, it's creating output and the good results we need to have. So for us, the driver's seat has the business, the first line. And we have established various steering committees because we are organized in divisions, right, in units. And one to start with is clearly research and development. So we have a dedicated steering committee, which is chaired by our CEO and where we have the respective research and development heads participating. But of course, other functions are also involved where they debate for the business case. What use cases do we have in the research and development field? Since a couple of months, I would say half a year now, we have the very same for commercial because we are researching, developing, manufacturing, but also commercial pharmaceutical company. So our products have to come to the patients. So also in the commercial field, we have established a commercial steering committee. Again, the CEO chairs it. We have the division heads there. They sit and they ideate saying, where do we want to play? Where do we invest? What are our use cases? The same happens for operations and us in the G&A functions where we support the business in finance, in HR, in legal compliance, and what am I missing? Maybe communications as well. So we have different governing bodies that roll up to the executive committee of Novartis, which ultimately will take the decision on the go. But then we have the responsible AI part. And obviously, if the first line has all those nice ideas, how do we come into play? And this is basically where we jump on existing governance that we have created around data privacy already. So whenever the first line is engaging in a new activity, in a new project, they have to register that. And it's mainly sitting in our IT function because most of the time it comes with a technology solution. So this is the hub where they go in and say, hey, I have this in mind. And we call it our e-classification tool. But this is where all our processes come together. We get triggered the work that we do and we come on board and provide indeed business partnering, risk assessment in assessing the certain project they have in mind and helping them navigating the risks. We need to identify if there is a high-risk solution. We have not seen, and I want to put that out, prohibited AI solutions yet. And we were also not sure how many high-risk AI cases or AI solutions do we see. And I would say we navigate between 5 to 10% maybe, and the rest is medium, low risk. But for us, it is really important to get on board and help assessing the risk and help the business navigating the risks once we know what it is about and help them to come to the result they wished and had in mind.
Franziska, it's obvious that you are very, very advanced in terms of the governance of where all these technologies are deployed in the different fields. Let's stay for a second with the first line of application. So you touched so many fields like commercial, organization, research and development, patient care. Can you just name some very important areas of deployment and some experience that the organization has gained through different ways of deployment AI solutions?
I mentioned that before, right? Novartis, since probably 20 years, is looking into how we use data, how we analyze data, how we apply AI when it comes to research and development of novel medicines. And for us, the big use case, and I guess for any pharmaceutical company, is research and development. And it's basically how we identify the new molecules that ultimately will bring cure and care to the patients. It is really historically from the idea of what we could research for and develop and manufacture and commercialize, if we were able to reduce the time it takes, and right now the average is between 10 to 15 years, rather on the 15-year side, when a researcher has an idea to come with a certain medicines. And if we were able to reduce that just 2 years, 3 years, maybe 5 years, and we have to see, because of course now it is in the making and we need to see how we can expedite all of that. But this is the heavy use case for any pharmaceutical company here and in the world and on the planet. And this is the ultimate goal for us. Second, when we think about research, but even more development, it's more research. Clinical trials. Clinical trials, for those people not working in the field, are a very complex situation. We don't manage them ourselves. We do have hospitals, we do have healthcare practitioners, doctors running clinical trials for us, also because we have to stay away from patient data. And how we recruit patients for clinical trials, how is the whole logistics managed on putting in data points. How do data points come to us? Usually, of course, anonymized because, we want to stay neutral. We don't need to know about personal information of patients. How you select the right clinical trial sites, the hospitals, and all of that. There is a lot of, brain work still needing to be done in the past, where we believe AI would make such an acceleration of time, also of quality, right? Human mistakes is something that happens. And, this is the health field. We really want to make sure that nothing goes wrong. And those are the big fields where we are looking into. And the rest, I guess, all the things we do in commercial, everything we do for our support functions is a productivity gain, which ultimately, independent if you are a healthcare industry and corporation, or if you, work in automotive or whatever it is, those are more, I guess, the standard opportunities that come with AI. But for us, it's in the research and development field.
I mean, as you mentioned, clinical trials are obviously a very, very important area of attention. And I would also assume that's an area that plays to your strength because it's very close to data privacy and probably an area where AI governance and data governance are very strongly aligned with one another.
Absolutely. And any data scientist listening to the podcast will probably tell me off, but I very often use, is it a visual, but to tell people, look, and a lot of people still are anxious about the topic. At the end of the day, we don't do things significantly different just because we apply AI. What happens is that an algorithm will help us to accelerate how we can use or amplifies how we use data and get readouts of the data points. So in this regard, I feel like for us as privacy experts on how we have navigated the past and how we ensured safeguarding of the use of data and personal data, obviously, is something that stays. And with the work that we do now on AI compliance, AI governance, we put another, safe net around this use of data and make sure that the good starting points we had and understanding of what data is about and what we can do also is taken to a next safe level. This is how I probably would describe. It's not a novum. It is a new software that makes things faster, which requires us to know our data points, which requires us to make sure that the quality of data we have at hand and use is the best. We have to understand the data flows in our organization if we want to make sure that we apply AI in the right way. And those are, I believe, basic requirements we should have had even before the AI hype started, maybe 2 years ago with, the whole ChatGPT discussion and how it can help all the work that we do and some risks attached with it, obviously, as well.
So staying with this image of the safety net that we need for the data and the analytics and the algorithms, that has a strongly legal side as well. And there's a lot of talk about the rigidity of data privacy regulation, AI regulation in the European Union. Would you say that is a disadvantage to a corporation that sits, let's say, within the wider geographical field of Europe? Or is it something that is perhaps even just helpful, as some within the European Union might try to purport? So what's your take on the role of regulation?
I would clearly say for us, it is not a competitive disadvantage. We clearly come from the positive starting point. We often get asked, right, because we have established already an AI risk and compliance management framework here in the company. And we often get asked like, okay, but how do you make sure that you have all the laws and, regulations in mind? And how do you make sure that you safeguard really the use of AI? And I can say for us, the EU AI Act was always the North Star. And historically, we are a Swiss-based company, but at the end of the day, EU regulation is something that we have to keep in mind. And maybe in Switzerland, it takes a little bit before it gets adapted. But for us, clearly, this is the direction we're going. By the way, we have done the same with GDPR. So for us, this was the North Star on how we have established our privacy framework here as well. So EU AI Act was something we felt, if we go with this idea, we are able to navigate the global environment Novartis operates in. And of course, China, the US are very important markets for us. And we're going to see nuances by the legislation, by the regulation coming out of those markets. But we believe if we go with this approach that we have decided for, we will be able to navigate. Of course, we will have to make sure that we comply with the local situations. But we do believe that the parameters the EU has put in place on how to safeguard not only the deployment, but really also, how we come up with AI solutions was probably one of the safest measures. And the human-centric approach, the respect for not only the companies developing AI, but also the individuals and society are parameters that for us at Novartis are very close to our heart. And this is why we decided to go this way and hope that we can go there. The topics around bias, the topics around fairness, transparency, accountability are all well embedded in this regulation, and we believe that's the right course of action for us to take.
Surely your response will make a lot of legislators in Brussels very happy. So your words are music to their ears for sure. That being so, would you have any specific plea or request for the legislators either in Brussels or elsewhere?
I think, and probably part of our work, right? I have worked in different parts in the legal and ethics, risk and compliance field for many years, whistleblowing internal investigations. And with some legislation coming this way, and now also with the EU AI Act in the AI compliance field, for me, it would be really important that we also get heard and that we also have, a way of shaping the legislative or regulatory environment in the industry that we are operating. Right now, I'm sensing, it is very heavily focused on how AI gets out and basically from the people generating AI solutions. I think, where we deploy AI, because very often we're going to take AI solutions on board. I think that is something. Pharmaceutical environment, it is research and development. It's a different field, and we know the exemption for some of the research and development activities. I can see that all, but generally I wish that we as an industry also take the accountability and the responsibility trying to shape the regulatory environment and the expectation of the regulators even more and even better, to also have a voice around the table and the relevance it has or certain decisions have for us, to be workable at the end of the day and allow us to also succeed with the things we had in mind when applying AI solutions. I know, I'm sorry, it was a little complex, but...
No, not at all. I think it is absolutely terrific, incredibly insightful, and I must say really, really inspiring, because you have really, really moved a lot with and at Novartis, and it's really good for our audience to hear that. With that, I really thank you for that wonderful contribution, Franziska. It has been really, really great. And I thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you join us again for the next session of the Influencers that is coming up soon. So take care. Goodbye.
If you're eager for more on the latest digital trends, visit our Digital Transformation Academy at engagepremium.hoganlovells.com/Digital Transformation Academy for interactive videos and our podcast archive, or our Digital Assets Hub at engagepremium.hoganlovells.com/resources/blockchain for thought leadership and guidance about all things digital assets.